dial in a heading of about 270. Let's go into our flight plan page, lateral revision, CATIII. Let's full speed. We don't need to accelerate. And we'll put in a new destination, and that's how we're going to get back into Atlanta here. So we will do the ILS to runway 9 right. That's right here. There is no star. And our VIA, let's call that Andy, or Andy-I-Y. I don't know if that's how you would say that, but we'll call it Andy. We'll insert that. And now we have some sort of reference there. Where is it? There it is. Down with 275 heading. For now, I forgot. Alright, there we go. We should be getting pushed back towards the airport anyway. We get like a wind from the south at 5 miles an hour, 5 knots. So, that's in there. Let's go ahead and bring the LS push buttons on. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and verify everything we need on the approach. So we're going to do this by starting with the flight plan page. We call this the backwards Z double D technique. So we start on the flight plan here. And we're going to go into plan mode, 10 miles. And come down here below our discon. We have Andy at 7,000. Which checks, and it's 3 miles to our next waypoint at defense, which should be at, this keeps bouncing back and forth. It's at above 6,000. This wants to cross it at 6,700. So that's good there, and it's 4 miles to Guy, or Good Guy, however you want to say that, which is at or above 5,000. And 3 miles to Easy, which is at or above 4,000. And then 5 miles and a 3-degree glide slope to Bernie, which is at 27, at or above 2,700. That's where we're going to intercept the localizer or the glide slope at. That's the glide slope intercept altitude, or verification altitude, if you will. And then from Bernie to the runway, it's 5 miles, 3-degree glide slope, and our touchdown zone here of 1,000 feet or so. Alrighty, so that portion has been completed. Then we move on to the missed approach. The missed approach says we'll climb to 4,000 on a heading of 100, and then inbound on the Alpha Hotel November. I think that's, I don't know what the name of that VOR is. 235 to Connie and hold. So if we look, it looks like this is going to climb us up to intercept a 100 heading on a 055 course to Connie. That's the radial, or the course to the station. At 235 is going to be a 055 course to Connie, and then we got the hold there, and it looks like that is entered correctly. So we've reviewed the flight plan. RadNav, not that much to do here. We have iFun, and that is the ILS identifier, so that's in there. We'll leave the VOR frequencies and auto-tune. We see this final approach course with a 30-degree glide slope. Coming over to our progress page, we can put in KATL runway 09 right. And that's kind of like for situational awareness purposes here. We have GPS primary with an accuracy of high. And we're estimating about 0.03. And that'll be important for a different scenario. We're going to come back into our perf page. We are in selected speed. So what we can do is we can activate and confirm. And then we're going to put in our information, 29902. It's 15 degrees out. And the winds are out of the south at 5 knots. We'll be planning on using config full. And we will enter no into our radio field here, because we're planning on doing a CAT-3 ILS. So I want to tell the computer that no auto callouts are going to be made. So we're going to do flaps full, auto brakes low. And for the double D, don't really need to do this unless we are doing a GPS approach. But we're looking to make sure we're not doing a GPS approach, so we don't need to deselect our radio nav aids. And if we go into GPS, we're really just making sure we get the mode as a nav on both of our GPSs here. So that's what you're looking for with the backward Z, double D, and now we're ready to brief. Let's go ahead and go down to 7,000. So there's a lot of things going on this entire time, right? So, and remember, it's just me, so I'm trying to do kind of like ATC, be the FO, be the captain, be the instructor. So if things get a little wordy, I apologize, but trying to get everything in as quickly of a time as I possibly can. So, what we have is next we need to go through and ask our co-pilot here if he's ready for a briefing. So, co-pilot says, "Yep, I'm ready for a briefing." All right, co-pilot, your aircraft, your radios. And he'll take over the aircraft, my radios. And the first thing we're going to ask is, what are your threats? Well, threats are, we're doing a CAT-3 ILS, which we usually don't do that often. That's the biggest threat. Also, since the RVR is down, we need to bring up our low visibility taxi routes here, so that we know which taxiways we will be able to use after we land. Excellent threats. I do agree with all of those. So I will brief the approach, and then I will go back and make sure I've gotten everything with a backup little flow diagram here. So let's see if we can even do this approach to begin with. We're going to be doing a CAT-3. We're assuming it's a CAT-3 dual, and the lowest RVR we can take with a CAT-3 dual is a 300 RVR. Well, a 300 RVR is what the runway is certified down to, so we are good to go there. With that 300 RVR though, we need a touchdown, a mid, and a rollout, all reporting 300 RVR. Any two are required, but if reporting, all of them are required. The only thing that's advisory is the far end and the rollout, if one of those may be substituted. If well, the rollout may be substituted if far end is missing. Or sorry, the far end may be substituted for rollout if the rollout RVR is not reporting. So we are good to go there. The lighting requirements, we need ALSF 1 or 2 lighting, and let's see what the bridge chart says we have. We have ALSF 2 lighting, so we're legal there. And as you can see, all of this is kind of a play on getting everything exactly legal. So we'll make a right-hand turn direct to Andy. I'll insert that, and we'll get going back around there so we're not flying too far away from the airport. So, required equipment for CAT-2 and CAT-3. This is stuff that is monitored by, we have things that are monitored by the airplane and things that we need to monitor. Everything on the airplane works perfectly fine. I see no issues there, so we should be legal to go. And lastly, let's get into some considerations. I'm going to brief these first. Auto brakes will normally be used on a CATIII approach. Proper seat height is necessary to ensure optimum eye position for referencing possible visual runway environment cues. So it looks like this is a good height for us. Auto thrust is required, it's on. The captain assumes pilot flying duties prior to localizer capture or initial approach fix. Yeah, airport advisory pages may also contain specific details on low visibility operations. So, what are we looking for on a CAT 2 or 3 approach? Below 400 feet, both pilots will verify land enunciated green on the FMA. The FO will call out land green or no land green, and if land does not enunciate below 350 feet, mandatory go-around considerations, the FMA does not display a land green below 350 feet RA. The auto land warning lights illuminate during the approach. That would be this light right here. The FMA does not display flare at approximately 40 feet. The FO will call out no flare. Other considerations: if the captain fails to respond to the minimums auto call out, which no longer exists because we have no one in the field. So on the land green call out, if the captain does not respond, then the FO takes over flying duties. If the aircraft is in position to land, in most cases, the safest course of action would be to complete the landing and roll out. So, a few last things here for a CAT 3 duel, which is what we're doing. Enter no into the radio field. After the outer marker or final approach fix, approach may be continued to landing even if the runway or VR is reported below minimums or the approach lighting system becomes inoperative. To continue below alert height, 100 feet RA, which is no longer a thing that's we are doing because we need to see nothing to land. We're verifying everything electronically. So, with that said, we're here at 50 feet, or 7,000 feet, on our way into Andes, well, just about 30 something miles to the airport. Just a little bit, actually, right about now, I'll go ahead and activate the active pause here, which is what would actually happen in a simulator, because you get around quite quickly back to the ILS, and you still have some briefing to do. So, there we go. There's our CAT 3 specific briefings. What we also need to do is, since we are doing an auto land, we need to do a landing assessment. So we'll go Atlanta. We're going to be on runway 9 right. Braking action's good. Winds are 180. Go back 180 at 5 knots. It's 15 degrees outside. This keyboard is messing me up a little bit. And the altimeter is 290.902. What? 290.902. Okay. Well, so landing weight, we can call it 128.0. Auto brake is going to be low. Max reverse, auto land, and you see why we have to do the landing assessment is because if you switch it from manual land to auto land, it adds a little bit there to account for the aircraft doing the flare on its on. So flaps full and the auto thrust will be on. So there we go. This is our landing assessment. Landing distance available, 8,999 feet. We just need 7,454. So we have enough runway to do an auto land. Excellent. With that in mind, we can now go and brief the actual approach. So we did all of our CAT 3 briefing. Now we can brief our actual approach. So we will be doing the CAT 3 ILS to runway 9 right, chart 11-7, dated 14 April 23. I have the same chart. So the frequency is 108.0 0.9. We see that here. The final approach course is 0, 9, or 5. We have Bernie at 2,700 feet. We've cross-referenced that. The minimums are none. The touchdown zone is 1,026 feet. And the MSA, or the airport, is 3,100 feet, all quadrants around. So we have no terrain to worry about. For the missed approach, we'll configure using full flaps with the low auto brakes. Landing assessment has been calculated. We have enough runway. For the missed approach, if we need to go miss, plan on doing a soft go around. So we'll call out go around Togo flaps 3, in which you'll say Togo set. I'll bring it back to climb. You'll say climb set, positive rate. And I'll say gear up set missed approach altitude. We'll climb to 4,000 on a heading of 100. And inbound on the Alpha Hotel November VOR, radio 235 to Connie, and hold. No significant notes on this approach. There is a PAPI on the left and ALSF2 lighting. That is a 3-degree glide slope. When we do land, as we mentioned in our threat forward briefing on 9 right, the turnoffs available to us are November 6, November 10, and Juliet. Those are the only ones that we are allowed to turn off on. From there, we'll make a left-hand turn onto one of those taxiways. If we did get November 6 or 10, we'll make a right-hand turn onto November, as that's the only direction we're allowed to taxi. And then we will hold short of runway 9 or left on either Kilo or Juliet, as assigned by ATC. Do you have any questions? Anything that I am missing? No questions. Alrighty. Well, if that is the case, let's go ahead and do I will take the aircraft back. So my aircraft, your radios, your aircraft, and let's go ahead and do a descent checklist. Okay, no problem. Descent checklist. Altimeters. Altimeters is 29902. 29902. Auto brake is low. Proof of approach page. Set. Arrival briefing. Reviewed. No star. ILS. CATIII ILS runway 9 right approach. Status is checked. Descent checklist is complete. So I'm going to reset some things up here. I am going to come up here and turn the simulator back on, essentially. And we're off and away for the ILS here. So we're level 7,000, approaching Andy. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'll slow it down to 210 knots as we start making our way in. I'll bring the range ring in. Don't need it that far out. It looks like it's going to want to pick up the glide slope right just outside of Dolphins, which is excellent for us. So, one more thing on our way in. The first ILS we're doing is going to be 2 go-around. Surprise, surprise. I'm letting the cat out of the bag. So we'll do that. We'll arm the failure. And we'll do it below altitude MSL. I'm locked out. That's right. Enter. Let's call it below 2,000. Below 2,000 MSL. We'll activate that. Apply the changes there. Excellent. The locus coming in. I'm going to go ahead and arm their approach. Low capture. We're below our VFE next. Minus 10, so flaps 1, speed verified. Flaps 1. We're in the simulator. We have all the time in the world. No reason to go fast. Let's slow it up to 180 knots now, which actually isn't too far off from the real world. When it's very bad weather like this in the real world, they will slow you up pretty far out to get everyone nice and spaced. Nice and spaced. So I've selected 6,000 in there just because we haven't gotten the glide slope yet. So just waiting on that to come in. We're below VFE next minus 10. So flaps 2, speed verified. Excellent. That's going to give us a little bit more drag. We're getting ready to pass our next waypoint here. And so I'll select 5,000 feet now. Well, there is the glide slope capture. We can set the missed approach altitude, which we already know is 4,000 since we briefed it. Let me go ahead and double check on our chart. Yep, it's 4,000. So the missed approach altitude is set, and now I'm going to bring the speed back to 170 at this time. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. The aircraft is speeding up a little bit. I want it to come down to 170. I'm not going to add any extra drag quite yet, as I'm not really a large fan of adding a ton of drag out super early on. We still have a long ways to go before we get to Bernie. So I had vectored us out quite a ways away from the airport, which is mostly my fault, as I'm trying to talk to you and do several other things at the same time. Usually, when you're in the simulator, they'll vector you in right just outside of something like Easy or Guy. That way, you're not too far out. When they release the sim, you turn an intercept, you get right on the ILS and keep going. And there we go. We're now in the soup. There's nothing to really see outside. A little bit of the cloud tops there. So our focus now is really going to be on our PFD for Cat 3. We're really kind of making sure that the airplane is going to land within the touchdown zone. It's really all a Cat 3 is verifying everything electronically is going to work the way it should. So we're looking at our FMA. We got Cat 3 dual, multipad is 1 and 2, flight director 1 and 2, and our auto thrust is on in speed mode. There we go. The radar altimeter is alive. We're just outside of Bernie. No reason to go fast all the time. So we'll go ahead and slow it up, get our gear down. We're below VFE and X minus 10, so flaps 3, speed verified. And with flaps 3, we arm the spoilers. And lastly, we're below VFE and X minus 10, so flaps full, before landing checklist, speed verified, before landing checklist, altimeters is 2992, 2580, 2992 checked, engine mode norm, landing gear, down, 3 green, Down at 3 green ECAM memo, landing no blue. Before landing checklist is complete. $1,000. Stable. Oh, okay. Got a triple chirp. Don't know what that was. Go around. Toga. Flaps 3. Toga set. Climb. Climb set. Positive rate. Gear up. Set missed approach altitude. Missed approach altitude is 4,000 feet. That's set. Flaps 1. Flaps up after takeoff checklist. Oh, I knocked that out there. And tower, Fenix 320 is going missed, runway 9 right. I have to troubleshoot an issue real quick. Fenix 320, copy, fly the published miss for now. Roger, we'll fly the published miss for Fenix 320. So there we go. We're flying the published mist. We're about to level off here at 4,000. No reason to hang out here at essentially green dot. We'll speed up to 200, we'll call it 220 knots or so. And that will be fine. So, now that we got that established, we did see we got an electric TR1 fault. If you notice, right before I went to Toga, it took everything a while to trickle down. It downgraded the aircraft to CATIII. And so you heard the triple click first, meaning there's a mode reversion. I just heard it before it showed up on the PFD. So let's look here. Electric TR1 fault. Looks like that TR is offline, and I have no faults above on the overhead panel. Let's go ahead and get our QRC out and see if there's anything for us to do on our quick reference card. Nope. Okay, so it's not a quick action item, or it's not an ECAM exception. So what we'll do is we'll hand the aircraft over to our co-pilot here. We'll let him fly the airplane while we troubleshoot the problem. So your aircraft, your radios, my aircraft, my radios, ECAM actions. We have electric, tier 1 fault. Looks like it's advisory in nature. No other actions to be done there. Clear electric. Clear electric. Alrighty, there's nothing in box 2 over here. For our status, we have Cat 3 single only, so that's why you saw the triple click, and then right before we went to Toga, you saw the mode reversion over here in the FMA. And so NOP systems, Cat 3 dual, and TR1. Clear status, clear status. Alrighty, ECAM actions complete. Now, if we had time, we'd go into our QRH for any follow-up procedures. It seems like this is fairly benign in nature, so we'll assume there's no follow-up procedures. Let's get back around to the ILS. So I'll take us off here. We'll head south again. And now, in the simulator, what would probably actually happen is they'd freeze the sim, say, good job, you ran the ECAM just the way we want you to. Good training there. I thought I'd disarm the spoilers. Flaps up after takeoff checklist. There we go.